Hey guys, Jim from Import Image Racing and welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're doing something a little bit different. I've been given a challenge, and that challenge is to create the ultimate shift kit for the 2022 and 23 WRX for under $300. Okay, well you're gonna have to stick around and see how I did. Well, I did it. Yes! Well, at least I hit the budget portion of it anyway. Everything that you see on the table rang in at a normal price of $298. I got that price from using all of the regular pricing off of Import Image's website. That doesn't factor in if you're a Billetworks member, where you could save a ton more money. Which, by the way, I have no idea why you're not a Billetworks member already. If you're looking for more information about the Billetworks, we'll drop a link in the description below. Today's video isn't an install video, but it is here to show you that if you choose the right parts and you can be smart about it, you can put together a really good shift kit for under $300. Before we get started installing onto the car, let's take a look at what parts we chose. First on the list is the Billetworks short shifter plate, which rang in at $100. Next is the Billetworks brass shifter bushing, which rang in at $25. Our Cobb shifter stop at $40. The Subaru OEM Group End mount at $85, and finally, the Torque Solution Positive Shift Kit at $48. Instead of telling you what all of these parts do right now, I'm going to start installing some of these onto the car, and once we get to a point where I can show you firsthand why I think you would benefit from this part selection, we'll go over that part by part. For now, let's get working. First up on our parts list is our Billetworks shift plate and shift bushing. So on this side of the table is our aftermarket Billetworks. On this side of the table is our factory OEM parts. Now, to understand the benefits on why we prefer our aftermarket parts over our OEM parts, we first have to understand how this particular transmission gets its input. Unlike the STI 6-speed and the WRX 5-speed up until 2015, this particular transmission gets its inputs from a series of cables. At the end of every single one of those cables is either a bushing or a pivot point. Since we're working on the same spot in the transmission for both of these parts, they do like to work in tandem to get the best results, which is why you'll always see people pair our shift weight and our bushing together. Let's start by comparing the bushings. Obviously, the factory bushing is a rubber bushing with a brass insert. So what this means is as you're pulling on your shifter, it goes through a long cable, and then once it meets to the end here and it starts to pull on this bushing, there's a lot of movement. Our Billetworks piece removes the rubber from the equation and makes for a much stiffer, more dynamic shift. Now let's move on to the weights. Our factory shift weight, although appears larger, is definitely lighter in weight than our aftermarket shift plate. So how this works, since we're on a pivot point, that weight helps swing the transmission from gear to gear. On top of that, you'll notice our dowel pin on each side is a leverage point. Factory leverage point is in a different location than our aftermarket Billetworks. So the weight compared with our leverage point makes a much nicer shift. And when you link the shift plate with our shift bushing together, which goes onto this dowel, we already are in the money with a better feeling shifter. Let's get it installed. Next up on the list is our transmission mount. Now, both of these mounts look very similar, and that's because they are. Both of them are OEM Subaru parts. The difference is the one on this side of the table is the factory mount that came off the vehicle, and the one that's on this side of the table is the Group N Subaru factory mount. Now, of course, they look very similar, but there's one large difference: durometer. In the world of rubber and polyurethane, the density is measured in durometer. The higher the durometer means the more dense the rubber or polyurethane is, which in turn means for a stiffer or less stiff mount. That has its ups and downs. Although we will get better torque transfer from our transmission to the wheels by eliminating the movement in the transmission, you will get more cabin noise and gear whine from inside the vehicle, which is why I chose the Group N mount from Subaru. There are some other transmission mounts out there, and a lot of them are very good, but with this being a factory part, you get the benefits of the transmission moving less, but we don't have to compromise with a ton of cabin noise. Lastly, for underneath the car on our shift kit is what I would consider one of the most budget yet commonly overlooked upgrades, and that's the Torque Solutions Positive Shift Kit. What you may or may not know about your transmission brace. Although we've upgraded our transmission mount, this particular brace here is not hard mounted from the transmission to the body. There's actually two spots in here, one in the rear and one in the front, that actually have factory rubber isolators. What the Torque Solution Positive Shift Kit is a polyurethane replacement for our 4 bushings. Once again, we're going to use that term durometer. The reason we're going to want to replace these is to get rid of our factory soft rubber and put in a much harder durometer polyurethane bushing. This is going to complete the field that we started with our transmission mount that's going to easily let our transmission shift and transfer the torque from the gearing to the ground without a whole bunch of sloppy mess in between. The very last part on our shift kit is our Cobb shift stop. Now we're going to get inside the car to actually install this, and it's not a really big deal. For being such a small part, it is definitely worth its weight in gold. For any of you guys who have driven these cable cars, you will definitely know when you go in first gear, and especially from first to second, there is a lot of side-to-side slop. What this particular piece is going to do is it's going to almost act like a gated shifter, but underneath our shift boot. So when you go to put the shifter into first, it will ride along this small edge, keeping the shifter from being loose. Also, when you go and speed shift from first to second, which I know you guys are going to do, it also allows you to just bring it right into second without worrying about landing in that second position with a whole lot of precision. On this shift stop, you'll notice that both of the holes are actually oval, and there's a reason for that. Another issue that we have with all of our cable shifters means each car is going to be different. Your car is going to be different than your neighbor's car, your car is going to be different from your best friend's car, and it's certainly going to be different from that guy you meet up with every other Friday night at the car meet. You're going to want to have to dial this particular part into your liking. All of these cars are going to be different. So all of these cars are going to have slight variations on how the cable feels once everything is installed into the car. So just be mindful when you install this that it might take a little bit of fine tuning before we put everything back together. There you have it. All of our parts are installed. But wait, it's only a good deal at under $300 if it made a difference, right? Like that's the real factor here, is when we get in this car, does it actually feel like we got our money's worth? So we're gonna go ahead and get behind the wheel of this thing, we're gonna drive it around, maybe we'll rip it a little bit and see if all of our shift upgrades were worth the money. So here we go. We just drove the car outside from the shop into the parking lot. And already I can tell you there is a gigantic difference as far as the slop from the shifter. So there's not any more of that side to side. I mean, there's a little bit because it's still a cable shifted car, but it has been drastically improved. Also, just kind of swinging from the throw from first to second, second to third, all that kind of stuff is much shorter and much more direct. It doesn't feel like you got to, throw the length of the car in order to get it to go into gear. But, let me show you. Virtually no more side to side slop. With the shift stop in here in first gear, you can see it kind of, goes about that far and no further. And when you push the shifter to the left closest to you, you can tell that there's no more of it just kind of like continuing to go to the left. So it's now riding on that shift stop. Now check this out. When you go from first to second, that's it. I mean, that's tremendously shorter throw, and that is our shift plate under the car. And then you can feel the bushing a little bit in here, and that really just kind of helps take up a lot of that throw and slop, but it is riding actually on the shift stop, and man, does that feel good. As far as the benefits from our transmission mount and Torque Solutions positive shift kit, we're going to have to take it for a drive. Wow, I will tell you what, I'm impressed, I'm excited. To spend less than $300 and drastically improve the way that this shifter feels, I mean, I think that is worth every single penny. Do I feel like this car is a race car now because we did all of that stuff? Absolutely not, but I definitely feel like this is the way the car should have come. If you're into spirited driving, if you're into performance driving, you will absolutely not regret doing these shifter upgrades. Well, guys and girls, I think that's going to wrap it up for our video today. I came in at the under $300 budget. That's a check. I also feel that you get exactly what you pay for and more for $300. I am super impressed, and if you're looking to upgrade the shifting in your 22 to 23 WRX, I think this is the best bang for your buck setup that you can buy. Although I like it, how do you feel about it? And what would you have changed? And do you think that you could stay under that $300 budget if you changed anything? Let me know in the comments below. That also reminds me, if you actually use the Billetworks savings on the Import Image Racing website, you could probably get even more for around that $300 range. So do it. I mean, it just seems dumb not to, right? Yeah, but I know you will, and that's the best part about it. So for thousands of parts just like we did today, plus tons more, be sure to hit up importimageracing.com for all of the best deals on the web and in the world, and we'll catch you on the next one.